committee members introduce themselves. So let's start with Margaret. I've got your name first. And alphabetically, you're correct.
Alphabetically. Hi, my name is Margaret Arneson, and I am a practicing attorney in the state of Florida. I've been practicing for over 20 years. The focus of my business or my practice is actually over 50% is contracting, construction, and business. And I'm also married to a contractor who's been certified for 30 years in the state of Florida. So I work with construction projects, with contractors themselves, with their contracts, with their business ends of it, and if need be, with their legal ends of it. And I've lived here for around 4 years, and I think it's a great building.
Thank you. Let's go to one of our members who is actually on the Zoom meeting, and that would be Carol. Carol Karras.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Carol Karras. I'm from apartment 909 and 911. I have 2 apartments put together. We bought our apartment in 2006. My background is I was a project manager for JP Morgan Chase and MetLife for over 25 years. I've worked on major multi-million-dollar projects for both the bank and the insurance company. After the 25 years, my husband and I bought a building in Brooklyn, and I was the building manager of the building. My husband was the owner and an engineer for one of the top scaffolding and hoisting companies in the country. They were responsible for projects like the World Trade Center. Almost 90% of all the buildings in Manhattan were worked on by my husband and his company. We bring some insights into managing contractors, understanding project plans, and that's basically what I have to offer.
Thank you, Carol. Now we're going to turn to the unofficial queen of the building, Marion.
Hi folks, Marion Scaller. I'm presently in 412. I've been in the building about 30 years, permanently living here about 18. I've had 3 apartments, and mainly my husband and I bought and sold apartments in the building because of the people. Our neighbors are terrific, people are nice. There's a flavor in the building that is not, I don't think, in any other building. And the reason that I'm getting involved in this, which is something I said I would never do, because I feel we need more transparency. We need to know what's going on. We need end dates to projects, not just keep asking us for money and we don't know where this is going. We seem to be getting some information now, which is very nice, maybe a little too late. We shall see. Most of all, I bring the experience of the building because I'm here so long. I probably know a little bit about a lot of things in the building.
Thank you, Marion. Alan Schlesinger.
Hi folks, my name is Alan Schlesinger. My background is from the Wharton School of Finance and the University of Connecticut School of Law. I was in addition to running many businesses as an entrepreneur. If you watch Shark Tank, I'm a guy like that. I invest, do angel investing. In addition, I held office for 20 years. I took a city out of bankruptcy, and I was in the state legislature in Connecticut as the ranking member of the Banking Committee and a subcommittee chairman of the Finance Committee. I've handled budgets as small as several $100,000 and as large as 20 billion. So I've had extensive budgeting experience and finance, and that's why I've joined this effort, because I believe that, and I will title it this, no end in sight as far as I can see, and that's both financially and construction-wise.
Thank you, Alan. And Mike Schmidt.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Schmidt. I've lived in the building for over 11 years. My background is electrical engineering and extensive knowledge of all aspects of construction. I grew up in the construction industry with my family. I was a project manager and program manager on the Space Shuttle program for over 15 years, running multi-million-dollar projects in a couple of hundreds of millions of dollars, and developing schedules, budgets, and tracking that, and always trying to meet and stay within target on our budgets. So my main concern is to keep everything on this project to schedule, within budget, and in a timely manner, so we can get our building back to where it used to be, and start utilizing certain areas like the pool area and get the club level back together. And my first commitment was get the pool open and then work getting the gyms open immediately so we could start utilizing some features of this wonderful building.
Thank you, Mike. And while you're at it, would you mind taking a couple minutes and just, for our audience, let them know why we're doing this?
The main reason I'm doing it because in all the meetings that I have attended, I've always asked for a schedule and for some progress and completion on certain tasks. And I was always told, you'll get it in the next meeting. And it frustrated me, never had to have a chance to get that information to review it. And my main concern is at this point, with the dollar amount that's been spent so far, that we don't have one thing completed on that list of items for the $12 million. Not one thing can say it's completed, and we still don't know completion dates for the remaining items. So right now, this building is in flux. They're working on all different areas with no end in sight and no focus on one area at a time and getting it completed.
Okay. We have lots of other points we could go over, but I thought at this time we would start opening up the floor to questions. I suspect you're going to be asking us about items that everybody is interested in hearing. So with Scott's assistance, start raising your hands if you'd like to ask a question of us or about what's been going on. Okay, well, while we're waiting for that,
I have a question.
okay, we have someone in the room that'd like to ask a question.
First of all, I want to commend you folks for volunteering to take on this effort. I stand behind you and support you 120,000% all the time. Hoping that we could have committees formed so we can assist you in your progress. I think you're the right people for the job. I'd love to see us get there unanimously, but it's not going to happen. So how many do we have currently? Do we know how many votes we currently have to recall this current board?
We presently have over 80 recall ballots that in my possession right now.
That's amazing, okay? I really think that's amazing. We can get there. What we need is some help from the audience that's been behind the sidelines here. There's a lot of us who have been talking about this. I want to give everybody credit for advocating for you, and I really hope that we get 24 more votes we need? Helene Cohen, Big Mouth, 1410.
One thing I didn't mention is our purpose on this committee is not to stop the project in any matter. We want to see it moving forward. So there's been rumors around that if we get on that the project's going to stop, and that's not our intention at all. What we want to do is just monitor CP&R correctly, get their schedules, get their budgets, and keep this job moving forward and to get this job done sooner than it's presently slated for.
Thank you. Carol, I know that...
Wait, I'm sorry.
Is
Dean
there-
had his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, please. Go ahead.
Dean, go ahead with your question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shared some of the same issues you guys did. I've been a contractor for 40 years, worked for Walls Construction out of Chicago, and I can't believe that I've asked for a schedule, I've asked for procurement schedule, and I was told that, it's very complicated and we can't provide that. And because it's a remodel, it can't be scheduled. And all of those things are totally untrue. I cannot believe that we don't have an active full schedule of all the activities that are left and phases of where they're going to be working. It just seems directionless, and they have no desire or no incentive to get the project done, and it angers me.
Thank you for that. That's been one of our concerns, mine particularly, since the very beginning of this. You may recall in the last election, one of the things I asked at that time was I asked for a project schedule. We were not provided one at that time, and we still haven't seen anything really resembling a project schedule, despite the most recent emails. Carol, I think you had some comments earlier. I want to just turn to you and ask, there have been some concerns about the ability to work with the existing management in the building. Would you like to talk about that?
Okay, one of the things is we want to work with the manager. We're going to work with everybody. We want to stay with the current group, the Castle and their employees. We're not getting rid of anybody. We're not looking to get rid of anyway, we want to do status quo. But what we do want to do is, this is not our project. It's the building's project. All of us owners are together. So what we want and what we're proposing is, going forward, is that we're going to manage by committee. We want everybody to, if you have an expertise, like the last gentleman, he worked in Chicago as, I believe, an engineer. His experience is vital to help us in decision-making processes, to help us manage the contractor. We want to manage by committees. We are welcoming everybody in the building to lend a hand, so we all know what's going on. And in addition, I think we've said it, we're going to communicate. You may get sick of us, but we want to tell you as we move along. When we know something just got completed, we're going to tell you. When we have an error, when we run into a snag, we're going to be upfront and tell you. We're going to tell you what we know, and we're also going to tell you when we don't know something. We're going to run a completely transparent program.
Thank you. Thank you. I think one of the problems we've had is we just literally don't know what's going on. Even when you get a picture of something, you don't know where that stands in the terms of completion. You don't know whether that's step 2 or step 22. You don't know what's scheduled to happen behind that. We don't know what the dependencies or what has to be done first before you can finish something else. This is one of the areas we want to make sure we understand as a group, and we want everybody in the building to know what's going on. I could, for example, the parking lot. So I was called, I work from home, and I was called on Monday to move my car. Well, okay, no problem. I can't park in the garage because there's lime dripping on my vehicle from the crack in the ceiling. So I've had to park on the deck. As everybody that tries to do that knows, there's a game of musical chairs that goes on every day as people are looking for parking spaces. I don't think it would have been too difficult to develop a schedule which would have said, today we're going to be working on the southeast corner of the deck, and those of you who park there might want to start looking for someplace else. Before you get a phone call saying you need to move your car right now, and perhaps you're in the middle of a meeting. These are little things in terms of weekly updates that I'd like to see about who's going to be working where in the building at what time, and what they're going to be doing and how long they're going to be there, and how that affects everybody else. And it's really not that hard to do if you work with your contractors and have a schedule and they say, this is where we're going to be tomorrow.
It's just called communication. Just communicate with us.
Thank you, Mary. Because when we're talking about
Just tell us.
transparency, that's a
Just
piece
tell
of it,
us.
isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We have a question.
My name is Robert Shepard from 812. I would agree with frustration in knowing a lot of information and what's going on and everything else. I think what the board sent out recently in several attachments goes a long way to answering a lot of those questions. To me, it's obvious that that's something that they've been working on for a long time. It's not something that they came up with as soon as somebody mentioned recall. The whole idea of recall is something that bothers me a lot because we have an election process. And I really believe that people that are concerned about making changes on the board ought to be going through the election process that we have every year. We vote for people. Some people are elected, some people are not. And I think that having a recall situation goes against that and ought to be only used. I know there's provisions for it in the law, but it's only used in an extremely drastic situation. And I just don't see that here. There's a lot of problems with what's going on. There's a lot of information that we're not given. There's a lot of frustration going on, but I don't think recall is the answer. I think working with the board and maybe coming up with an advisory committee or somebody that works with the board to get more information from them. The board meetings are board meetings and they're not time for a discussion period. So that's not the venue. But I think if we asked for a meeting with the board where we could go back and forth and explain to them, and not in the situation of a board meeting. Maybe we call a members meeting, which we're allowed to.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of that. If you try to get in touch with the board right now and you send them a certified letter, they do not respond back to you.
And that's
I
the
think
only
they're
way to
required
communicate.
to, aren't they required to within 30 days?
Well, here's actually a receipt from the letter I sent on behalf of this group to the board. We have not had a response from the board in our request. We wanted to have a meeting with them before we got to this point.
A sit-down meeting with them.
We wanted to give them every opportunity to answer our questions, which represent many of your questions. This board has stonewalled and not given us a response.
And it's more than 30 days?
No, it's not more than 30 days, but it is more than 2 weeks.
Okay, so they have, but by rules, and I guess by law or bylaws or whatever it is, they have 30 days to respond. So,
Well, my biggest concern is,
I'm a big person for going with the rules. You can advocate change, you can make change, but you need to go through the process that's been set up in the rules. And that's an election process. That's maybe, asking for something within 30 days. And then if they don't comply, I mean, you go from there. But the whole idea of 4, 5, 7 people coming up that have not gone through the election process is something that concerns me quite a bit. And I don't know where that's going to lead us. So now, if you 5 people get up there, or 7, or whatever the number is, and then if me and 7 of my friends don't like what you're doing, we'll just have another recall committee. I don't see where it ends. And I
Well,
don't.
before,
Robert, allow us to answer your question, please.
Sure.
Jeff, go ahead.
Well, 30 days is unreasonable number of days to answer a simple letter. That's
It's
just
law.
not. And secondly, this is the first and only time this building has ever done a recall, and it's for cause. Look, not everybody is cut out to be a board director. We gave them 4 years. You know what? It's enough already. We need to make a change. Things aren't happening properly here. We need to move on. There's a lot of money involved. Our lifestyle is being infringed upon. This is enough.
Okay, and
They haven't been there.
Moderator, I'm going to jump in.
There's been some people done every year. It's not a complete.
okay, we're going to try to answer your question. Let's do things in order here, too. Alan, I believe you have a few comments.
Yeah. I'm going to respond directly to you. The election will not serve the purpose of what you're looking for whatsoever. This is way beyond that. First of all, only part of the board is up for election next March. This is so serious. After I reviewed what the board had sent out, this is so out of control and it's taking so long that's why this drastic action is needed. This is not like, oh, things aren't going well, oh, we're not happy. This is absolutely out of control. I don't know if you had a chance, sir, to look at the current project and quote unquote future projects that were sent to us. This report, I think, and you said it's obvious they've worked a while, may be true, but this is so disingenuous. I've been working with budgets, as I told you, probably for about 40 years. I've never seen anything so disingenuous as this to say to us that, maybe we need, and I think they sent a letter out for another $3.5 million.
first one was $3.5 million.
That's not to complete the projects that were part of the 12 million. I wonder how many people are on Zoom, I'd love to see them raise their hand, that thinks that $3.5 million is all they're asking for to complete what the 12 million was supposed to originally complete. Nothing could be further from the truth. There's roughly 1/2 of the projects that are listed on that particular line items that they say they need another $3.5 million. That's not the $12 million project. That's about half the $12 million project. So you have to even then take a grain of salt all their other numbers for stuff that hasn't even started yet. And they have also taken out 10% of the original 12 million project. They're not going to do it all in both these phases. If you think that this can be addressed with the normal electoral board process, I have a bridge for you in Brooklyn. This is out of control financially, etc. And let's get down to the basics. A lot of people in this building, and I'm new, and I'll freely admit that, but a lot of people in this building, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 is a lot of bankroll. for a lot of these people. And now we're talking about at least doubling that? I mean, some of the people I've been told by some of the neighbors that I've met are in danger of having to sell just to pay for assessments and the future assessment. It's that much. We're not talking, and you know, Mike and I, we love to talk. And you know, and we were saying the other day, you know, if they needed another million to, you know, finish the 12 million and they were on schedule and they were transparent, we'd be excited for them. We'd be happy. We'd be parading around, right? Asking
Exactly.
everyone to vote for them and their money, and they've done a great job. But this thing is totally out of control. Anyone who has looked at any of these numbers and has experienced how long without a gym now? A year and a half?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Longer than
So that, I mean, and that's just some of it. But I mean, I could get into some of the specifics if anyone has questions, but I hope that everyone understood what was sent out. I can only go by their numbers until I get into the nitty gritty after this board is replaced. But just going over using their numbers, which I take with an extreme grain of salt, that this thing is totally a mess and cannot be addressed by an election in March. Otherwise, you know what? If you don't vote for this recall, you are voting for status quo. And I guarantee you, I would bet you anything that a year from now we'll be in almost the same exact position, except we'll have expended a lot more money.
Yes, I'd just like to make the point that it is important to get the recall ballots back. A ballot that is not received, is not voted, is not used, in essence is a vote to retain the present board. So if you wish to express yourself and your feelings, if you're sitting on the fence and you decide what you want to do, send the ballot back. If it's a ballot for them, fine. If you're happy with their performance, you think they're doing a great job, if everybody believes that the present board is spot on, then vote that way. But if you don't, send it back the other way.
We got Dean and then another one after.
Good luck.
Yeah. The only point I wanted to get to is the documents that you sent out are totally incomplete. There's no firm, you know, construction pathway with logic tying activities together. It's they should be in those meetings screaming at that contractor, when are we going to be done? What's the pathway to get there? Give me a schedule. Give me where are my materials that I need to put in place. What they sent out is basically meaningless.
David, thank you for saying that. I wasn't going to, I don't want to appear to be attacking anybody, but what everybody received from the board is not, and I repeat, not a project plan. So that single page that you have with some X marks on some months is not even a summary of a project plan. A project plan, and I've been doing this for 20 years, involves sketching out a pathway, how you get to point A to point B. Understand there's a lot of things that have to happen along the way. Mike has done this for some extremely complex projects. It is the idea of putting an X and saying you're going to have your club level in January there's nothing to back that up. There's no way to know that things are going to happen in time. We don't know. We haven't been told. We don't know where they are with what has to happen in order to get the club level done. My understanding is that maybe the roof needs to be finished first, and before you can go ahead and finish the club level. At least that's what I've been told. That isn't on there. So that, again, you have not been given information that is usable by the board in trying to figure out when this thing is going to end.
It's not too much to ask for a fully phased schedule with activities. And if there's so many delays that were from the city, they could plot them and protect themselves a little bit. Right now, there's no viable information for us to use. And the contractor just says, oh, well, the city made us delay. Okay, that's all right. No, it isn't okay. Where are the milestone dates? Finish the job.
You're absolutely correct. And one of the main holdups on the roof right now, I was told 2 weeks ago, they were going to get the floor tiles up there to start get the tiles up there and finish the flooring. And 2 weeks have gone by, and I don't see any floor tiles up there from that video they just posted. The picture of the video also showed a pool filled with water. That was 4 weeks ago when they did a water test, the second water test that was required by the city of Fort Lauderdale. and now the pool's sitting empty, and they were supposed to start working on the tiles and start, getting the Diamond Bright into the pool, and that still hasn't been started. I guess it's hard to get, pool tiles nowadays, but all these materials should have been ordered and in stock and ready to go to keep the project moving forward, and nothing on that schedule shows materials when they're showing up and when you're going to start the job and when you're going to complete that task. That's the kind of schedule we need, a broken down list of one for the pool, one for the roof. How are we going to accomplish the roof? How are we going to now go downstairs to the club level and start opening up the gyms? What do we have to do? Where are the prints? Where are the decisions being made? What we're going to put the club level back to? Are we going to keep it the same way it was? Or are we going to set it up with a business center? Are we going to set it up with a different room that people want? We haven't been asked one thing. And to this date, we're over $9 million spent out of the 12 with no end in sight and asking for another $3.5 million. And that's the only reason I'm running for the board, because I'm tired of shelling out money to them.
And that's for half.
Yeah.
That's the important part.
And they literally can't decide on what kind of flooring to put in the mailroom, which we see every day.
Let's take
And
a
it's
question.
disgusting.
Next, I have HAO CBD.
Yes, hi. This is Carol. One comment, just to let people know, 2 weeks ago, I talked to one of the managers from CPNR who was in the elevator with me, and he said the board hadn't selected the tile for the roof when I asked him when it was gonna be going down. So, just so everybody knows, that's what I was told. My question is, if we want to vote for part of the board to be removed, but enough to give the new people an overriding amount of votes, can we do that? Do we have to take everybody off the board, or can we take certain people off the board and vote for other people to go on the form that you sent us? How does that work?
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
answer that.
And on the.
You gotta go to the microphone. Go to that mic.
I have to cut you.
On the proxy itself, it tells you, you could recall or retain. And then below, you vote for which directors you're in favor of. Is that clear?
Okay. Alan has a comment also.
Yeah, and Jeff is absolutely right. That's exactly what you can do. However, I think we're in agreement that each one of us, and if you notice by our backgrounds, has different areas of expertise to make this thing work. If some of the people that are running here don't get selected, it weakens, I think, where we're going, and that's the only thing I would caution against. If you like some of the people that are on the board and you want to retain them, that's certainly your prerogative. But I think Jeff and others put together this group specifically because of our different areas of expertise so that we could get this job done. I, for one, need this like I need a hole in my head. And I certainly, I would not be offended if I'm not put on this board. However, I'm doing it because I care about you guys. And I also especially care about, and it reminds me when I was a mayor, I care about the people who can't afford this. I mean, a lot of us should not only think about ourselves, you should think about some of the people that will not be able to pay another $50,000, $60,000. And they're having trouble even paying the original amount.
Yeah, one of the things that I hear people say, Carol, you had said that you met the man in the elevator and he gave you information. That means only you know from one of the workers what's happening. I don't know, and neither does anybody else in the building unless you put out a giant email and tell us. That's the problem. What happened, we had a sign in the lobby that said, "Dare to dream." And it sounded beautiful. Maybe it's not all of our dreams. We weren't asked, we weren't consulted, we paid the money. And the reason I got involved more than ever, we got an email way back for $3.5 million, then $5 million, it was gonna progress, and Alan spoke to that. I sent an email back through the manager, which is how it was sent to us, asking, do you have estimates? What is this money for? Will it complete the project? Is it new? Because the original list of jobs that were supposed to be done are not. And then I was told that paper meant nothing, but 12 million was based on those items. The manager emailed me back and said, you cannot speak to the board. The only way you can get to the board is through a certified letter, which goes to the office. They have 10 days, he has 10 days to send it to them, and they have 30 days to answer me. We are neighbors first. This is a big project. We're living in total chaos, and you can't talk to me? Something's wrong with that picture.
I'd like to make one comment. CPR is a good contracting company. They are more than capable of handling this job. They're more than capable of coming up with a project plan. They probably have one. And they could probably, if the doors were open, people were communicating with them that would understand, say, this is our projection to get the pool done. This is our projection to get the garage done. It's a large, well-experienced company. That is what normally a construction company of their size and their magnitude and qualifications would do. And either they've done it and we haven't seen it, or they haven't been asked for it, but I am sure that they've got a plan and that they're willing to work with the building. And I believe some people have already spoken to them, and they are. That's what we need, the experts to do it, the people that can communicate with them and the company itself.
The present board hired Dave to oversee the project to help support us to keep track of our money and to keep the job on schedule. To this date, he's been paid over $230,000 in salary. And when asked for schedules or anything, I've been told that he just gives verbals to the board. He doesn't write anything down. And if he's a project manager, as part of his contract, he should be turning in every Friday, what percentage of what project is complete, how much more we have to do, are the materials ordered. He's supposed to be our advocate with CP&R to save us money. And it turns out it's actually been in the reverse. He's actually hindered projects. He's changed the scope of the work without our approval. And yes, your other question, Carol, the tiles, I know they picked out the tiles before, but they promised to deliver the tiles. I was told they were in storage, but they're still not here after 2 weeks. So I don't know what the story is with the material. But my main beef is if we hire someone to represent us and control the job that has construction expertise, he should be giving us reports every week on the status of what areas are being done and completed, and if we're in budget or we're in trouble. And then also, our person that's financial on the present board in all these meetings has not once raised his hand or raised the flag saying the spending is getting out of control, and I don't see us staying within the $12 million. Until about 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, a letter came out asking for more money. Why wasn't that addressed in any of those board meetings, that the money is being spent at a faster rate than we can afford?
And we asked at every meeting. I did.
Do we have some questions from the, I think we have some questions from the floor.
Got Lana? Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Hello,
Yeah, Lana, go ahead. You had a question?
this is Dennis Carter in 1111. And I would like to know, what guarantee do you have that our current contractors will stay on the job if you replace our board? That's my first of a couple of questions.
Would you like me to respond?
Thank you. We've actually been hoping somebody would ask that. Margaret, do you want to
Go ahead.
Sure, I'll start, but they can run. CP&R has a wonderful contract with this building. They're very happy with it. There are some wonderful people that work for that company. They want this job. They want to continue to work on this job. There is no reason in the world why a successful contractor like them would not want to. They're actually kind of excited, possibly, of working with some of the people, not myself, I am not a contractor, but some of these people with experience who can work with them and ask their questions and feel like they're getting somewhere with it. They have no interest in walking away whatsoever.
Yeah, we have no intention of stopping the job in any respect. I want the job completed, and CP&R, since they are knowledgeable of the building, they've been here 2 years, and they're almost at the end of getting certain projects completed. We would never stop them. And I've been building up a rapport with the different managers on the project. I talk to them on a daily basis. I do a little walk around. So I'm pretty familiar all the different aspects of what we're doing presently in the building. And I have no intention to stop CPR. I want this building put back together and start utilizing certain aspects.
Enjoying our home.
In that, but what I am asking specifically, no one wants to stop that. What I'm asking directly, what can you guarantee they won't leave?
Why would they? We
I
have
had a
contract.
discussion with the head guy from CPNR. Excuse me? I had a discussion with the head guy from CPNR, and I posed the question to him. If a new board took over the project, would CPNR, have any difference of working on the project with us or versus them? And he says, we don't care who we work for. We're here to finish the job. So there's no way that putting another board in place is going to stop the job or ruin any relations with CPNR.
And we have contracts. We have contracts that we have with them. I'm sure they're not going to break the contract, and we're not going to break the contract. Why would we, and why would they? It's lucrative for them, and it's advantageous for us to get this done.
Thank you for your question. Scotty?
In most contracts, there's usually an escape clause, but that does answer that one question. I'd like to go to the next question.
Wanda, before you ask your next question, we have 2 more questions I want to ask. I'm going to let those 2 go first, and then I'll come back to you.
That's Dennis, by the way.
Oh, Dennis. Okay. Dennis, so I'm going to let 2 more people go, and then I'll come back to you. All right, so next I have Mitch. Mitch, go ahead. Mitch, I'm going to ask you to unmute your mic.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Mitch.
I got 2 questions.
Okay.
Number 1, how hard is it to pull the correct permits? And number 2, when does this become new construction to a 50-year-old building?
When did what?
Yeah,
When
I
it
understand
became
the
new
question.
construction. Sorry.
It was changed to new construction when they decided to open up the other side of the building, the roof, and add a stairwell, and that's how they put it as new construction. So they changed.
But I don't remember voting on having that part of the roof utilized.
And you're absolutely true. No one voted for that.
Ah.
And that's what held up the roof project with paperwork.
Okay, and back to permits. You would think CPNR and our representative, if they've done buildings like this, would know how to pull permits. Why do we keep getting wrong permits?
Why do we not have?
I think I can answer that. The CPNR, they take their marching orders from the engineer and from the board. They don't pick and choose the work that they get to do. So once the permits are in place and once the engineering documents are prepared, the prints, they'll do the work based on what they're told to do. And the contract that they have right now is at a cost plus basis. So there's no negotiating a price and there's no time limit.
And it's time and material.
Or time and material. It has no meaning.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with permits? I keep hearing that they got the wrong permit. We're delayed because the permit is incorrect.
No, they did a blanket permit for the roof, pool, and the garage. It's all under one document. That's the way Dave, the rep, set it up. So the only reason that there was a holdup on the roof is because some of that was new construction, and that wasn't under the original permit.
All right.
No, no,
Right.
no, it was a dream. They had a dream.
Okay, I'm going to hand it off to Helene, and then we'll come back to Derek.
Helene Cohen, 1410. Again, I'd like to know if there are any questions regarding why we should not allow these guys to represent us. So how many more do we need?
2.
2? Yay. I really have, I'm so sincere about this. I've never, ever have seen so much trouble in my whole life. I love this place. 12 years I'm here, finally decided to move here. I don't know if I could stay here. Really. Don't feel bad for me, because I'll try my best. However, I want to make sure that everybody understands how important this is. Please, for the livelihood of so many that live here, think about it. it is really important to make a stance at this time. We might not get another chance to get this done properly. We got the shuttle man, we got a legislator, a doctor, Marion, Margaret, contractor, and Carol. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty impressed with you, my friend, so. All right?
I'm impressed with all
I'm
of
really
you.
thankful. Thank you so much. I'm really thankful.
Thank you.
I hope we make it happen, guys.
Thank you, Helene.
And the truth is, we'd like to see the whole building support this. This is not just a small group of folks.
And get involved.
Get involved.
The
Support
committees,
building.
as Carol said, everybody, we are neighbors
Get involved in
first.
committees, absolutely. We have so many people in this building that have such expertise in insurance, in building and construction and management. You guys gotta step forward. You gotta help out.
Okay, Derek, go ahead. You had another question.
Dennis, I think.
Dennis?
Dennis, I'm sorry.
Dennis.
Dennis, please
Well-
go ahead. Unmute your microphone.
Is he there?
I just asked him to unmute.
What happened?
Yeah, go ahead, Dennis.
Okay. My next question was for Alan Schlesinger. With all of your experience that you have on budgets and the things that you say and do with budgets, and this would probably be for also the engineer there, and probably for Mr. Baker too. How can you guarantee that we stay within a budget when you don't know everything that exists until they discover how bad it is?
Okay.
There's a discovery process that you cannot put a line on. If you find something that is bad, you have to keep going and you keep going. And every time you keep going and pull the trigger on an air hammer, that's man hours. How can you stay in budget? That's
Well,
my question.
Well, first of all, staying in budget is impossible. That's impossible because let me give you an analogy. Most of you folks out there have owned a house, I bet, or at least a condominium, and you've had contractors do work. What if I were to tell you that the contractor comes back to you and says, I'm gonna finish half the work and we're 137% over budget? I hate to laugh, but in all my years, I've never seen anything this out of whack that I've ever seen. So now that's me just condemning, but that has nothing to do with the future, which is what your question is asking. What I would do immediately is find out where every single line item from the original request of 12 million, where it stands, meet with the contractors on that particular line item, see exactly what they need to finish that line item, and then, to be honest with you, start cutting. Because again, I don't think everyone who lives here can afford these increases. I mean, they said downstairs that it's dare to dream. Well, that dream has become a nightmare. It's not a dream anymore. And so what we need to do is find out from day one, and believe me, this is going to take me a little time, but find out where everything stands on every line item and be perfectly honest and transparent with everyone and say, this is what I recommend cutting out. First of all, we have to do what the city requires. So those would be the first line items that I would want to make sure that we have that under control. And then work back from there so that we'll know exactly where we stand. But being in budget, I mean, it's impossible. There's gonna be more assessments. The question is how much more and what do we get for them? So I want to turn this nightmare into something that we can all afford and get it done. And these gentlemen and ladies are going to get it done as quickly as possible. But I want everyone, not the people on this board, I want everyone to know exactly what needs to be done, what has been spent, and what needs to be spent to finish that particular line item. And that is the goal right from day one. Then I can answer your question as to exactly, to the penny, and I'm a penny pincher, and I'm telling you to the penny what everything's gonna cost based upon that type of an analysis. Right now, couldn't tell you. These numbers are so out of whack. As I said, half the project is 137% over budget. That's using their numbers, which how can you even trust their numbers when they were the ones who told you were going to get double as much for less? So assuming that their quote unquote current projects are accurate, we are 137% over budget. I would obviously try to cut that back as much as possible, then see what else that needs to be done and give everyone a line by line accurate reading as soon as possible.
Okay, now I understand where you're coming from, and really the bottom line is on this, you're not going to get a price on any budget whatsoever until the job is finally done. Then you know the final cost. But the reason that I'm asking this right now, I've been there for quite some time, and I love coming there. I love my children being there, and I love my grandchildren being there. One of the biggest things to me is safety. Can you put a price on any of my children or grandchildren's life?
I think the first thing I said was that we have to see what the city is requiring. That is the mandatory stuff, absolutely. Safety before anything else. I'm sorry, Mike.
I'm just saying,
We're
the
on
roof,
same page
the roof
with that.
and the safety has all been by the engineer and the city over inspecting everything. We're in the final stages of putting the roof back together. We're not starting from scratch. The pool has passed its second water test, so that's been proven safe. It's just a matter of getting the materials here and sitting down with CP&R and see what has to be done and get a schedule and get them a firm commitment from them to get the project back on track and move forward and see what's holding them up. What is the problem? Why are they working on the parking deck? Why are they working on the mezzanine when they should be focusing on the roof? And then the next thing, attack the club level so we can get that back open. But right now, we can get budgets if we sit down with them. It's going to take a little learning curve of a week or so to sit down and see where we stand on the paperwork. But then we could sit with the CP&R and see what they estimate, and then I can look at their budgets and see if they're realistic or there's a lot of fluff in there, and hold them to the fire and get them to put in a full day's work versus most of their laborers work but lucky 4 or 5 hours a day out of an 8 to 8 hour schedule, which they have an hour lunch. So they're really working 7 hours. And then by the time they have breaks and everything else and leave, start packing up by 3:30. Be lucky if you get 4 hours a day out of each employee.
Well, I know.
Other questions from
Any other questions?
any other members in the audience?
Someone's trying to.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Hi. All I want to ask everybody, if you're happy with the way the status quo is now, then just sign the ballot and say you don't want the recall and say you want to keep the original board. If you're not happy, if you want more control and you want more communication, then give us a chance. Ask your friends and neighbors to sign the ballot. If they're not happy, tell them to sign the ballot. Because otherwise, next year, we can't complain if we're over budget even more. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I saw someone with the name raise their hand physically, so I'm gonna ask you to unmute, and then I'm gonna get to Mr. Shepherd afterwards.
Hello, I'm Maria. I wonder if we can stop this beautification project. I mean, if we don't have enough money, why do we have to change like the elevator's cabin or cage, or just, why don't we just change the spare parts, the motor, and all these things that beautification, it's already beautiful. Why do we have to change the lobby? Why don't we wait until everything is finished and then spend? That's what I think.
These are decisions that we can make as a community if we're allowed to. If we have committees, we can decide what this is, our home, our building, and we can decide if we choose to. We have not been given that right to date. Decisions have been made for us.
Right.
Maybe it's not your dream or my dream, maybe it was somebody else's dream. We can have a say if we choose this.
I mean, on that subject, Mike was getting at a point that really disturbs me. When you're so far over budget, how in the world do you start adding on to it by doing something?
voted for.
And we're talking about the point of safety. I think everybody at this point has had a scary experience in the elevators. Either the doors don't close or they don't open, or they stop, or they don't run. I think everybody can agree at this point the elevator needs fixing. Whether you want to spend a zillion bucks to buy super duper new cars or not is another issue. But that's something that we need to think about and talk about. It's not arbitrary. It shouldn't be arbitrary.
We have choices. We should have choices.
Scotty, I think you said there's some other folks waiting.
Yeah, Mr. Shepherd, go ahead and unmute your microphone.
So I think you all have brought up some really great points, and I agree with just about every piece of frustration. And I'm just as frustrated as everybody. I think we need to remind ourselves that the city of Fort Lauderdale has been mandating a lot of this stuff because of what's been going on with permits, and I think there's a magistrate involved and things like that. So a lot of the things that needed to be done and the way that they needed to be done, I think were out of our hands. I also think we need to remind that there's people in this building that have been sabotaging the operation since almost the beginning by putting in these phony and ridiculous complaints that have stopped work. I think a lot of that's been changed, been taken care of recently, but in the very beginning, we had people in our own building that were sabotaging the operation just because I don't know why. And one of the other people brought up the discovery process. When you start getting into a building that's 50 years old and you pull up the floor and you find out that the floorboards are all rotted out, well, you didn't know that before. So a lot of the reasons that we're over budget and we've got these financial problems is stuff that was just found and is nobody's fault. It's something that we didn't know, we couldn't plan for, but as somebody else reminded about safety, it's things that have to be done. This building has been kicking the can down the road for the last 20 years that I've been living here. And now it's time to pay the piper, and it's ugly, but it's got to be done right. And it's got to be done with safety. And I think what everybody's saying is we need to be told a lot more about what's going on as it's going on. And I totally agree with all of that.
I agree with you, Mr. Shepherd. This is Marion Scala. But also in the entire time that these projects have been going on, we get bits and pieces of information. You seem to have a line of information and you know about the permits or different things. I don't know that. I have no clue. There is no communication, and decisions were made for beautification. Discovery is one thing, and safety is very, very important. But for beautification or different things, we were never contacted, asked. As I say, in the lobby, it says dare to dream. It sounds wonderful, but it may not be my dream. Nobody ever asked us. So you must have a pipeline to some information. I do not.
So also just to say about that, because it's come up a number of times, some of us are veterans of recent election, and all of the arguments that you just mentioned, including supposed interference with the inspectors and strange things that seem to get found, were brought up in the last election, which was what, a year ago? So I don't know that another year and another millions of dollars that have been spent since then, I don't think at this point we need to be talking about what happened in the past. I think we need to talk about what is the best way to go forward.
Right.
Although I will say one thing, my wife has happened to be up on the club level weapons. You could still see through the windows. And when they cracked the concrete up on the pool deck area, and apparently a horde of bugs came out that was like something out of a science fiction movie. So I agree that you probably couldn't have planned for that, except when you're renovating a 50-year-old building, I think it's reasonable to suspect you might encounter an infestation, and maybe you need to build that into your project plan as to how you're going to remediate that. They shouldn't have just held their hands and said, oh, I'm so shocked and surprised. What did you think you were going to find?
Right.
Makes sense.
I'm going to, I see HAO, CBD, go ahead, unmute your mic.
I do want to make a point following on what Marion said. This was one or two people's dream. If they had simply redone what was at the pool before, they would have been grandfathered in to repair things, would not have had to put a stairwell in because the occupancy would not have changed. They would not have had to tile and water, well, they could have had to waterproof, but they would have not had to tile, put $800,000 worth of supports for cabanas in. I mean, these two people's dream is costing us all many, many, many millions of dollars more than this job needed to. And even with all the safety concerns and everything else that we have. So I think that some people need to be aware that, yes, there were some decisions made by this board that got us into this overextended project for people to see a sunset view when they could go down one floor, sit in an air-conditioned lounge and look out a window and see exactly the same view, and costing us all probably a third of the cost of what has been spent already. So just to let you know, while I have been supportive of the board, there are some people and things that have been done by this board that I don't think represent the unit owners that have expressed opinions about the project, even to the manager and onward to the board, etc. I don't think those people are being heard, but only the people on the board are being heard. Just my feelings, my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we're gonna have Beverly and then Lori. Beverly, I asked you to unmute.
I just did. Okay. I'm Bob Baker's wife. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want people to stop and think for a minute. What project have they started that they finished? Other than the bocce ball court, there's not any projects that are done. I mean, nothing. And this freaking parking lot down here, I mean, after all of this stuff is done, then we got to get that parking lot straightened out. But I'm just saying, they don't complete anything. I mean, you can't do the exercise room. You can't do the party room. You can't do any rooms until that's done. Why? There has to be some way to do that or do something. We can't even fellowship with each other anymore. We can't even be together anymore in groups unless you run into each other out by the beach. But what I'm just saying is, it's been 2 years and nothing has been completed. Not one, other than the bocce ball court. And that's all. Bye.
Thank you. That's why we're here. Mike. Okay, go ahead, Lori. Go ahead and unmute your mic.
Actually, it's Thomas Tranastic, 1007. I just want to bring up the time and material, okay? About 3 months ago, I started monitoring from my balcony what time they leave. They were leaving at 3:30 every day for a month, I've seen. This is even who knows how long prior. I brought this up to the, at a meeting, okay? And I had pictures of this going on. And it just left on deaf ears. No one did anything. I mean, someone here from the building should maintain, I will even do it. See if these people are working when they're up there. We are under time and material is not our friend. They're abusing the time on us.
So Tommy, thank you. And by the way, I look forward to seeing you in the gym again someday.
Someday.
And we should welcome, he should be on one of our committees immediately.
Yes.
You may monitor activities of the work crew, absolutely. And thank you, all facetious aside, thank you for doing that. One of us would like to talk a little bit maybe about one of the reasons why the workers are not working 100%.
I'm not sure if anyone has gone on Building Link and actually looked at the contract that was signed on July 28th of 2021. I was surprised myself, and I write contracts for a living, and I write construction contracts for a living, and I negotiate between owners and contractors, and we look at the permitting. Cost plus contracts are not that unusual. The difference is that a cost plus contract has a cap, and it also has the ability to be relooked at. And this particular contract had a 352-day relook period, which was not done. And it does not have a cap, which is very, very unusual. For over 20 years, I've been dealing with this in commercial and in residential. And we're more along the lines of we're residential, but we're large enough to be considered commercial, especially with the amount of money involved. So when you have a cost plus contract, there's no real incentive to finish. If you put 10 people on the job, you get to charge for 10. If you put 30, you get to charge for 30. Those are one of the reasons why they're often capped, and this one was not. From what I understand from the gentlemen on the board that I've met with CP&R, they're willing to work and to do this, and they're willing to bid, and they're willing to look things through. And I've also heard that there was a crisis in 2021. There was. But 352 days later was 2022. In 2022, contractors were looking for business. Contractors were expanding their business. And that would have been the possible time to re-talk to them, though I understand they're willing to at this point. And I think it'd be helpful for everyone in general. Marion wanted to add something.
No. I did not know that. I know that we do time and material, but I didn't know that it could be changed. I didn't know that they'd be willing to negotiate. I did not know that. Thank you. I learned something.
More questions?
Okay, I think we've, it's after 8 o'clock. I don't want to take everybody's time too much, although one of the things this group wants to do is be open and communicate. You've seen our faces, you know our names. Happy to talk to anybody, anytime. If one of us does not know the answer to a question, I'd be willing to bet that someone else in the group does. That's one of the pleasures I've had in working with these wonderful people, is that they come from so many different areas. We live here, we are your neighbors, we are your friends. We want to live together in peace, in a safe building that we can all be proud of, but we want this thing to come to a conclusion, a good conclusion. And so we're going to ask you once again to please send those recall ballots in. You can send them to me. I'm in apartment 604. You could send it to Jeff Goldstein at 11. Mike, you're in
1707.
1707. Any one of us would be happy to take them. We're just trying to get to the right place at the right time with something we can live with. And that's what this is about. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your interest. We thank you for your input, and we hope we have much more of it. Have a
great
wonderful
night.
evening. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.